So what should we talk about, people? What shall we do? Give me some suggestions. Get me started. Nothing? Any suggestions, anybody? Susie, what do you think? She's a mother of 3 boys, so she must have something to talk about.
I 1 second, it's just echoing. Yes, please. I'm desperate for you to talk about that. Just generally, how you. It's just about putting it into action, moment to moment.
I know, Susie.
Can you hear me, by the way?
I can hear you, darling. Yes, exactly.
Oh, yes.
So what are the challenges for you being a mum?
I'm so sorry, I'm having a problem. Just 1 second. What did you say? Sorry.
What are the challenges for you being a mum with 3 boys?
It's overwhelm, which I think is a mild form of anger or something.
Being overwhelmed. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, go on. Keep saying. Keep talking.
It's when lots of things are coming at me at different directions, different ages, needing different things.
Yeah.
And it's staying in that centered place where I don't lose my SHIT.
Exactly.
And it sounds so ridiculous, but it's the hardest work in the world.
No, darling, I totally believe it. It just is. It is that. And so then the learning from you, I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I remember when we were talking about how we've got to find the space. Are you able to find that? I mean, have you got a supportive partner?
Yeah. I mean, we give each other space. We give each other as much space as we can, but it's frenetic. And we've just gone into tier 4 and, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want to, we never tolerate a victim mentality. We always try and find a way to step up, but it's sort of a bit frazzling sometimes.
No, totally, darling. And this is the point is, I mean, this is the point. And this is why, when we talked about this 2 weeks ago, and it really struck me. This one I talked about in childhood, remember? When at the 7, I was completely berserk, super hyperventilating people with a dysfunctional darling mummy and daddy. I mean, it's a miracle to me that, and everybody has that to some degree, and it's a miracle that we don't all kill each other, It's really astonishing that we don't kill each other. So it's a miracle that we can survive. But the point is, when we look at the wisdom wing and the compassion wing, like we've been talking, the wisdom wing really is the retreat mode. The best way to do the wisdom wing is give up sex, drugs, and rock and roll, go to the mountains and get some realization. Then you can come down and you can be with your 3 children and your partner and not lose the plot. So, but here we are, most of us, trying to practice both wings together. And it's pretty miraculous. It's too hard. So when we have a bit of humility, Susie, and realize it's an incredibly difficult job, then you don't get distressed, and then you realize you've got to find the space, you've got to find a budget into part of your day. If you have the luxury to do this, you budget in part of the day when you have your own practice, because that's the training. That's when you train. That's when you do some concentration. That's when you make decisions. I'm going to watch my mouth like a hawk today. But that's also where, when you realize the very first level of practice in the wisdom wing is control your body and speech. So even if you every morning make a vow, you know the dangers, you know how the children press your buttons, you know what your partner might do or whatever, or the other people. So you make a decision like a hawk. You're going to watch your speech. You don't go around and beat your children probably, or rape somebody, but it's the speech, honey. If we can control our speech at all costs, it's like this is what I heard first when I heard the teachings, but it's only now 45 years later I'm beginning to hear the wisdom of it, and it's the most profoundly difficult practice because everything vomits out our mouth. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's when the damage is done. But if you can decide in the morning when you do your 5-minute practice, whatever, I'm going to watch my speech like a hawk today, and I will not say this, and I will not, because if you can manage your speech, mind might be berserk, but when you're on your own, you can handle your mind. This is something that's so profound, but we get it in our culture because we just vomit everything out. We don't have techniques of controlling our speech. We think, I must go and meditate. Yeah, but the speech, if we can control the speech first, it's like a miracle. Then at least you can keep your mind relatively stable and be wise enough to respond appropriately, I mean, speech is a good start, I tell you, because once it's out the mouth, it's too late. I mean, have you got trouble with your speech? Do you blurt out too many things or not?
Yeah, I do.
If you're an actor, you've got gift of the gab, which means the downside of you is your speech as well, because your speech is easy, So this is a problem with people who've got gift of the gab. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you can control your speech, does it make sense or not? Does it sound reasonable?
It's really makes sense. And when you said that 2 weeks ago, it came at such a perfect time for Jamie and I, because we sat down for the therapist thing and we were like, like steam coming out of our ears. And then you started talking about it and we're like, wow.
Exactly. And we should really be so humble with ourselves, Susie, because it's not easy. For me, it's a miracle that we don't kill each other. It's a miracle that ordinary human beings with deluded minds live in the same damn house, especially now, all day, every day. We should be so kind to ourselves and realize it's an immensely sophisticated job to do, to behave nicely, to be able to navigate the chaos of 4 different human beings' mind around you. This is incredibly difficult. We've got to realize that. And that's why you've got to find time in the morning, and you've got to do a purification in your own words in a very human way at the end of the day. For me, it's the most powerful one, just to check the day, to regret the rubbish, not with guilt, but with self-respect, then to do a little practice, then to vow to change, and you go to bed with a happy mind. This, you bookend both parts of your day, you know, the morning and evening. That's the tools you have to use, even if it's 5 minutes. Don't think of it as holy. It's like practical psychology, you know. Then you just do what you can during the day. Do your best. I mean, is this? I mean, do you two at the moment, because you're both at home, do you share the job of parenting equally these days, or is it more you?
We share it. It just depends what other work commitments and things we have to do. It's a juggling act, and in our profession, there's never any rhythm and routine. There's an enormous amount of joy and silliness and love in the house too.
Of course there is. And forgiveness. And forgiveness. It's okay, you know.
Yeah, and it just seems very electric.
Yes, exactly.
And electric, and the 3 boys are full of love and passion and feeling, and it can just switch from this joyous everybody dancing to, you know, and it can suddenly just be and it's, I really want to be something I don't think I've ever been, which is just like, I want to be so calm. And
I understand, darling, but you know, don't worry about that. Don't have a fantasy expectation. The other key thing is, you know, what happens is when we're all being a bit neurotic, and if you're parents especially, and especially having attachment, what we do is we identify with what's around us. So if your 3 kids are berserk, you tend to think you're berserk. But if you can keep steady and navigate their berserk, let them be berserk. It's okay. Let them be crazy. Let them shout and yell. Don't try to solve all their problems. Don't try to keep them quiet. Let them shout. Let them throw things. It's okay. And you, as long as you keep clear, and it's like busy noise on the freeway. On the motorway, there's masses of noise and cars. If you lose your plot, you're going to crash. So you've got to keep steadying yourself, and don't want them to all be perfect little saints, and don't get nervous if they shout and yell. It's just part of human nature. It's okay, you know. Allow them to do that. And if you don't lose the plot, then it won't feel nearly so bad for you. Because calm sounds very nice, but calm, not so much calm, but more positive thoughts. Positive thoughts is the better word to put it. Calm is a bit fantasy. Having positive thoughts. You can still be busy and have positive thoughts, Susie. So let the kids be berserk. It's okay. Don't try to suffocate them. Don't be nervous about their craziness. Are you hearing me?
I am. Yes,
and then you keep steady, and you're listening to their words, and you can tell when it's time to discipline. You can tell when now's, you know, otherwise stop trying to solve it all the time. And maybe you do that, maybe you don't, but attachment makes us want to solve it all the time and make it all perfect. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. That's not even necessary. Allow them to be who they are. It's okay. And then each one, and then, I mean, you must time to each one individually. Are you able to do that?
We do. We home educate too. So that's an extra thing.
That's your job as well. My God Almighty, that's huge.
So it's quite full on. But yeah,
I think you're very brave, baby. Wow.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm good at stepping up and doing the brave thing. That when there's a problem, I feel like I'm designed for war. I can get in, but it's this more. But it's the more day-to-day holding the shit, loop tape washing up, you know.
Yes.
But you know, I'm really determined that I want to crack this.
I understand. And you feel you are, though. I mean, you know, it's a slow process, and you don't expect perfection, and you have the humility to accept your mistakes. And that's why this practice at the end of the day, you admit to yourself, well, I did that dumb thing. I said those dumb words. And you don't have guilt and twist it inside. You regret it because you're sick of the suffering. Then you have compassion, and then you do a little bit of purification. And then you vow, you make some decisions to yourself. That's really important at the end of the day.
I do that at the end of the day.
It's practical psychology. You understand?
Yeah, no, I love that.
One day at a time. It's a work in progress, you know.
I think Jamie and I have generally improved enormously, but I think we're probably at that same stage where the shit really is coming out. And I think that's the
Yes, exactly.
process.
The shit
And
is
so
coming
we're
out.
just trying to stay steady as,
That's right,
and
exactly.
we're grateful for it because we hear that it's part of it.
Yes, it is, definitely.
But we're both like sort of.
I know, it's okay. So be brave, know it's a work in progress, know that you've got potential, know that you're human, know that, okay, and your motivation is pure. Motivation is pure, honey. It's the main thing, and it is. So you've got to have long-term perspective, long-term optimism. You know, you've got to have optimism, and as long as even if there's shouting and yelling, there's harmony. If it's harmonious, you're harmonious, right? The 4 of you, 5 of you, isn't it?
In fact, we always say Team Lloyd. We're very, very loving, very close, very silly. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of compassion.
That's right.
And it's just very loud and chaotic. And there's always a lot to do.
I know, but then you've got to keep yourself, when you're clear in your mind, you won't mind about the loud. You don't, because what happens is now, if our minds are unstable, as soon as there's a loud noise, our mind is magnetized by it, then we get upset. Wish it wasn't there. That's what anger is. So don't resist the noise. Don't resist the loud sounds. Don't resist the chaos. That's what aversion is. So if it's attachment, always wanting to be perfect, you'll go nuts. Don't resist the sounds. Don't resist the behavior. Don't resist the things. Then you're accepting it. Then it's very different, and you can go with it more. It's very powerful. That. Do you understand?
Thank you.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. Just keep moving, baby.
Thank you.
Good. Oh, darling. Who else then? What else do you want to say? Hello, Jay. How are you with your... Jay's got family as well. Are you hearing me, Jay? It must be good for you to hear this. Jay? Can't hear you, baby.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, darling.
Sorry, I'm having my fingers are kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, are you hearing what I'm saying? So it's very relevant to you, isn't it?
I was like, whoa, that's perfect timing. So yeah, quite a pretty similar situation.
Exactly. We're all, one way or another, Jay, we're all the same. We've all got the bunch of human beings around us with our own craziness, and it's all trying to navigate each other's stuff. But the clarity has to be first in you and not resist the other person's things. That's what aversion is. When we realize that, it sounds so simple, but to say aversion, you know, if you don't go to your therapist and say, oh, I had aversion today. They'll tell you to shut up and go. You know, they want you to come only if you want to kill your wife or kill your son. But no. Even just the small things that go wrong out there, not to have aversion to it, allow it to be there as if it's not part of you. Then you can navigate it. Then you can stay steady, you know. I mean, and this is where you've got to deal with the tiny moments of attachment and aversion, not wait for hugely bad things to happen. This is why when people say, I'm in the middle of a raging fight with my wife, what'll I do? It's a bit late. That's when the wheels are falling off. You know, you got to get it before the wheels are falling off. That's why a bit of morning meditation, morning practice, speaking to yourself is so crucial. Then you'll catch the moments, the small moments of attachment not getting what it wants. You don't wait for the big things to come. And then when the big things come, you've prepared, you've practiced, you know. Yeah, and again, control the mouth. And then when you can control the mouth and you've got the space, you can then control your mind. This is the one, isn't it? We're all, I mean, variations of all, whether they're children ups, we've all got the same problems. It's on the freeway or it's at home with your kids. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good.
No, definitely. Those kind of accepting the small aggravations and not trying to just block it out is what I'm working on right now, because blocking it out is great, but that works 2 or 3 times and then you end up exploding, which is not. But
I think the blocking out is the problem though. You're resisting it. That's when you're resisting it, Jay. That's not what I'm talking about. You're blocking it out.
No, I was doing that. I stopped doing that. Originally I was doing it.
No, you got to know it's happening, but you notice your mind and you decide you're not going to have a negative interpretation of it. That's the practice. Not just resisting it and then exploding, but hearing that you have aversion to it and then thinking, well, you know, I can change my attitude towards it. I don't have to have aversion to it. It just is what it is, that kind of thing. Instead of going out to the sound and interpreting the sound, just let it be there. That's a good practice. It's like, you know, you just let the sound be there. If it happens to be the sound of your son screaming or your wife abusing you, it's just a sound. I mean, it's all hard, easy to say it, but hard work. But blocking it out, that's suppression. And then one day it will come out. That's not helpful. And that's the options we have in our world. We either think you vomit it all out or we repress and deny. But this is the third approach. You're conscious of it. You notice it. You see someone shouting and then you observe your interpretation of it. And usually attachment when it hears a sound it doesn't like, it becomes angry. And that's the point in your mind. But first, the speech is important to control. And then you observe its aversion, which is mild anger. And that's the anger makes us crazy. Because if you resist that sound, then it will explode one day. That's what makes us exhausted. When we think we're on the freeway all day in the traffic and the shouting and the yelling, we come home and we're exhausted because our aversion has been going berserk. We can't stand the sound. We can't stand the noise. But we can change interpretation of it. That's a miracle. Do you understand what I'm saying, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the practice, honey. Thank you so much. What else? Anyone else got some thoughts? Christopher, what about you? Are we speaking reality for you, Christopher?
I just walked in. I need a little time to acclimate.
Okay, never mind. Dawn, what about you, Dawn? You've been there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the patience and the humility with the kids. They were just here before the Zoom, and we were having a dance party, and I think that's such a good way to like get
what's the dance party?
Like just turning on the music, and so my son and daughter and niece were here, and so my niece is off of school now, so she's staying a couple weeks with me. So it's, as far as the noise goes, like I'm totally okay with the kids expressing themselves but like with my daughter, the noise, other than when she decides like she was participating with the dance party, but the noise is really hard for her mind, like in general.
What about you now, Dawn? That's fine for her. What about you?
Yeah, for me, my mind, I love it. I mean, I love them.
Discussing a problem then. So you're not discussing a problem. But what about if your daughter's shouting at you and abusing you? That's different noise, isn't it?
That's
what about those?
That's where the mouth, the controlling of the speech.
Right. Exactly.
And I have made a very strong determination a few years ago with my speech, and it's not, obviously it's never perfect, but that is with my daughter. My daughter's like the most sensitive with me. Like it can really get in there with me.
That's right, exactly. So you're working well on it.
So it's
but
hard.
You're identifying with, like I'm talking to Susie and talking to Jay.
I'm identifying with that.
Right. Well done, girl. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Doris lives on her own, so she just has to deal with her own rubbish. What else, people? Any other? So have some questions. Come on.
Venerable Robina, there's a question in the chat box from Ada. She says, "Dear Venerable Robina,"
Ada.
From Ada. She says, "You mentioned last that it is the human form that achieves enlightenment. Then why are there Buddhist deities in the animal form?"
What are the deities in the animal form? Like, give example. So what do you mean?
That's the question that she asked. I don't know if Ada, if you can unmute yourself.
Are you here, Ada? Show yourself, Ada. Are you there, darling? Ada, there's Ada. Talk to me, Ada. Unmute yourself, sweetheart, and ask the question. Explain what you mean. She's not answering. So until she comes, I can't answer that until I know clearly what she's. Any other questions, I'd be very happy to hear them. I'd love to hear Ada's question more clearly. But is there anybody else that got a question? No? Any other thing at all you'd like to talk about? Hello, Catherine. You, darling. Catherine in North Carolina. Go, baby.
Hi. So, Robina, when the appearance of the I arises really strongly to us.
Yes. Yes.
So, from what I understand, there's two things we can do. We can try to find the I, or we can kind of analyze why that I is arising, like what's kind of the emotional state that we're experiencing that made it arise. Is that right? And if so,
I understand.
Which of those two?
I think it's a good point. I think the way a good Cath, I put it is this: if we understand these delusions, the way the Buddhism presents them, especially the three main delusions, the three poisons, the three toxic emotions, we've got to realize there's a really intimate hierarchical relationship between them. So the root delusion, the one that's so primordial, and as you said, when the I arises, that delusion has been triggered. So the feeling of panic-stricken, I, how dare they do that to me? This is not fair. We nearly get run over on the car by a car or something, and there's this panic and fear and the heart beating. It's so primordial. That's the ego grasping at the fantasy I. So yeah, if we're really good practitioners, we can catch ourselves like a hawk. We can then grab that moment and then check to see how the I appears to us. That's the most sophisticated one. But before that, which we should practice doing, if we realize that when ego grasping arises, when you're attacked, what's just then arises intensely strongly is attachment, because that's the next one that gives ego grasping gives rise to this craving for that fantasy I to get the nice things. And then when it doesn't get the nice things, it gets the bad thing, then that gives rise to aversion. So the aversion and the attachment are grosser than the ego grasping. And they're the ones we're discussing right here. So once we've these really clear, then we can start doing the subtler job of observing how that I arises. That's a more sophisticated job. If we can't grab the attachment or the aversion first, we've missed the opportunity. So the better one is to see the aversion. Every time your attachment doesn't get what it wants, aversion arises. It can be mild, like frustration, annoyed, irritated, and we never pay attention to those because we think they're normal. But when it's strong aversion, so ego grasping is, they're both informed by the ego grasping, and that's the most sophisticated one. So if you can go directly to that one, go for it. If we can learn to grab attachment, always hungry for something more, and then grab the when it doesn't get what it wants, that's the real day-to-day full-on being your own therapist. And we can begin to really see them. It's easier to go to the subtle one and see how this feeling of I comes. That's really sophisticated. If we miss the attachment and the aversion, it's too late to look for the I. Because usually it's how dare you do it to me. It's already gone. We've missed it. So grab the attachment and the aversion and observe how we're responding, and how aversion is saying, how dare you do that to me? It's informed by ego grasping, but that's aversion's talking. That's wrong. I do not want that. You understand?
Okay.
They're the ones. But if we can get to the subtler one and grab it at the subtle level, if we're really disciplined practitioners, then we can watch like a hawk. That's what Mahamudra is. You're watching like a hawk. Watching out of the corner of your eye, observing how that sense of an independent I arises. That's a really sophisticated practice. You can try it, but if you can grab the attachment and the aversion first, that's good learning. That's good. And then we can subdue them, then it's easier to get to see the I, the fantasy I. Do you understand?
Yeah,
that's my way.
It came up very strongly last night, and it was lingering. And I'm like, oh, I should take advantage of the fact that this appearance of this I is so strong right now, and it's not, it was stuck with me, and I'm like, let me, let me take advantage of this and
that's what the idea is, to take advantage of it and catch it. But the fact is, I think, Catherine, with this practice, if you miss it the first second, you're already launching into the story, how dare you do that to me? You've missed it. Quite sophisticated, but you can try and catch it. Of course you can. Of course you can. And that's why they say when you sit down to do the meditation on the I, the first thing you do is you remember an occasion when you've been insulted or offended, and you watch, so you conjure that thought so you can grab the appearance to your mind of that fantasy I. It's quite sophisticated, but we've got to try. But once it's gone, that's the moment. If you miss that moment, you've lost it.
Okay.
That's the time that's best and freshest.
Okay.
But afterwards, it's really attachment and aversion that are then talking. They're the grosser ones, and they're the voices of the ego grasping. And they're the ones that linger and are the stories that we're trying. So you've got to hear the story that your main thoughts are saying. So if the story, what was the story that the thoughts were saying? Tell me, speak the word.
How, you're disrespecting me.
There you go. Oh, honey, you're talking pride. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. There are many voices in there. That's pride's voice, baby. That's pride's voice. That's not even anger's voice. Attachment's voice is always hungry. Anger is how, that's not want that. Pride is how, feeling insulted. That's pride, sweetheart. That's one of the branches. So that's the voice you should listen to. And of course, they're all informed by the ego grasping. That's pride's voice. That's pride. That's what we have to do. Every thought in there, if it's a jealous thought, you've got to speak it out. What is it saying? Thought, resentful thought, angry thought, proud thought, attached thought, low self-esteem thought, depressed thought. We've got to hear the thought that emotion is saying. That's the job. And they're all quite different. So that's pride speaking. You get my point now?
Yes. Okay.
And pride and anger are very linked. A teacher said the best humility is patience. I think he also could have said the best patience is humility, because they're like brothers. Pride and anger come nicely together, but they've got distinct characteristics. When we're offended and insulted and no one appreciates us, that's pride. And interestingly, the flip side of pride is low self-esteem. So they're very mixed. We go swinging between those two. And the thing is, we wouldn't have low self-esteem if we didn't have pride. And this is very tricky to see and rather shocking, because we don't think we've got pride. But if we've got low self-esteem, if we think we're a creep, that's because we've got pride. In other words, low self-esteem is always comparing ourselves with somebody else who's better, and it's like we're resentful that they're better than me. A person who's got humility is delighting in someone else's quality. But low self-esteem, which is internalized pride over-exaggerates your good qualities, and then low self-esteem exaggerates your bad qualities. They're both symptoms of the same problem, but they're a very specific flavor, you know. This is why we have to catch the thoughts and then identify to those thoughts. This is the Buddhist analysis. It's very interesting. You with me?
Yes, thank you.
Good. That's very interesting. Thank you for saying it. Now we've identified. Ego grasping is way more subtle. Ego grasping is the subtlest one. But they're all the voices of the I. The proud voice, the attached voice, the angry thought. They're all voices of the I. But to catch the I, the way it appears as independent, that's a subtler one to do. You get my point? It's very interesting. It's really helpful. Who else?
Evan, Robina, another question in the chat box that was sent to me. With it being Christmas week, they were curious what your thoughts are about Jesus.
Oh, I wasn't in love with Jesus. I was in love with God when I was a little girl, right? I was a Catholic. So, you know, it's a very interesting point. Yeah. So what do Christians say? Christians say that Jesus is the manifestation in human form of God, don't they? That's very similar to the Bodhisattva attitude. A Buddha is a pure, unmanifest, all-knowing, all-compassionate mind, the same energy, if you like the way the Christians talk, speaking loosely, and that Jesus is a human manifestation on the planet of that energy. Well, that's what a Bodhisattva is. So that's what Bodhisattvas are. But the difference is in Buddhism, in Christianity, there's only one of those, and it's called Jesus. But in Buddhism, there are trillions. And the second point, of course, in Buddhism, as we all know, we can all become Buddha, whereas that would be very shocking to say that to a Christian. So, I mean, Jesus, obviously, you know, look qualities of Jesus, look at what he said, look at what he did. It's clearly the actions of a bodhisattva. It's obvious, it seems to me. But there's a difference as well. I remember, you know, because they don't talk like that. They don't talk in Christianity about Jesus being reborn and reborn and reborn for the benefit of sentient beings. I mean, I remember in Kathmandu one time, some lovely Lutheran people came for a talk, and they wanted to know the differences with Buddhism, right? So we're discussing all kinds of things, and we're looking at the similarities. I mean, then one of the differences, I talked about the bodhisattva attitude of wanting to, based on incredible compassion, being reborn and reborn again for countless lives to benefit others. And this wonderful fellow, he was so funny. He said, no, that's terrible. He said, I don't want to do that. He said, when I die, I want to go to heaven with God. So there's big differences. But you say the qualities of Jesus, I mean, you can't argue. Pretty amazing. The words, you look at the words, but the underlying philosophy is, of course, it's quite different, isn't it? And it's okay to be different, I think. Nothing wrong with that. That's what I've got to say. What else? Anybody else?
Hello, Venerable Robina, it's Christopher.
Hello, Christopher.
So you may have already answered this. I came in late, so my apologies. But so I recently lost my father, and there's been a lot of family stuff coming up around that specifically for me. And one of the things that came up recently was my sister's. So I had a little bit of a entanglement with my dad about 7 years ago, and I confronted him in a way that he wasn't used to and that I wasn't used to doing. And I didn't know this at the time, but my sisters just told me this week that that he sent them all an email and said they had to choose who to have a relationship with, him or me. And this was a while ago, but it was the first time I heard it, and it hurt me so deeply that I went way into myself. And So I'm not sure if that's ego grasping or aversion.
Yeah,
And
sure, 'cause, I mean, listen, Christopher, we've all got delusions, so it's taken as a given here. So, but did you learn this after your father died, or what?
after he died, yes.
Did the family, in fact, choose between him and you?
No, they all pushed back on him and
Both. Okay, but your father, did you heal things with your father before he died?
not really, no.
You didn't see him again for 7 years, you mean?
Well, we talked, but we never had a deeper relationship than just pretty surface.
So you,
I
in your
guess-
mind, so it's okay, but in your mind, so you feel like devastated, hurt by your father. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I went into self-protection mode, but it was all internal, and
I understand that, Christopher.
out.
So what do you think the problem is for your mind? How would you label it? Just speaking simple words,
Well, like, look, now that I was able to recognize that that occurred, I can see where that's happened to me in the past, where it was weeks or months where I was in that state.
What
and
state, Christopher? Sorry, I'm a bit confused. What
That
state?
state of introspection where I was isolating myself from other people around me.
I don't
dawn-
understand now. I'm lost completely. What's this got to do with your father? I'm confused.
Well, it was the fact that I was so hurt that I
Okay, so now stop. Okay, good. Stop right there. So you just felt, so what's hurt? Analyze hurt. What would be hurt?
inward
what's-
anger.
what's-
I don't know.
What? You don't know. So you're angry. Angry?
Unexpressed anger. Yes.
You're angry. So you're angry with your father. You're pissed off with your father for saying such words. You felt devastated. You felt what? But I mean, you said you had a problem. You had difficulties with each other.
Right. It's just, I guess what bothers me is I was so disturbed by it that I couldn't even see that I retreated within, and I
I
wasn't.
understand that. But what would you say your problem is? What do you think you should do about it? How are you going to solve it? You can't fix it with your dad. He's dead. But what can you
Right.
do for your own mind?
Well, are the wheels off the cart at that point, or do I?
Well, tell me.
Well, it kind of felt like it.
But
Just-
right this minute. So how are you dealing with it? I mean, do you understand the view of what tools are you using? If you like Buddhism, and you told me you did, so what are the tools you're using from your little kit bag to deal with this hurt, this feeling of betrayal and from your own father? What are you using as your tools to help you navigate this and explain it to yourself and go beyond it? It might take a while, but what tools are you using? What of the Buddhist teachings that you like, what are you using to help you understand this and work through it?
Well, so I noticed the feelings that came up, and then I went further to try to find out what the thoughts were that triggered
So
those
what are
feelings.
they? Okay, so what are the anger, basically? Anger.
And a lot of self-doubt and a lot of
Stop. What? This is very interesting. What do you mean by self-doubt? What's that got to do with it? It's
like
very
low
fascinating.
that's a cat. Low
What do you
self-esteem.
mean self-doubt?
Low self-esteem came up. Like
What do you mean by low self-esteem? Talk about that. You mean you must be a shit if your father thinks this.
exactly. And
And
it
what
was,
is it true that you're a shit or not, Christopher? What do you think? What do you think of that?
I'm not a
thought?
shit. I'm
Okay, then so then you dealt with it. You didn't believe in it. You argued with it and realized you're not a shit. Okay, good.
Right.
But that's your father. So, okay, so you have compassion for your father?
I do.
You wish your father well?
Yes.
Well, that's the battle, so it's okay. So you just keep moving. But I mean, do you understand karma at all? How do you deal with this with the explanation of karma? If everything that arises in front of us, if every thought a person has about us is a result of some karma in the past, does that help you understand this? Because obviously with fathers and sons is a very powerful relationship, isn't there?
Yes, and I've even been trying to go back farther and just realize, well, what are the seeds I sowed in past lives that got me into this relationship with this man as my
Well,
father?
obviously you had a strong karmic connection. That's how came you ran to his wife's womb. You got a strong history with that person. That's okay. So the main thing is he's dead now. You can't do much about him. You can do is deal with your own aversion, your own unhappiness, your own attachment, your own anger, your own hurt, and accept that you've got a karmic connection with this man. Maybe think there's some good learning in this. It's like if we're brave enough, we can use these relationships to help us about our own minds and learn about your own past actions. And that's when you just kind of, I mean, this is the kind of a process you got to go through. But at least you love your father and have compassion for him. You don't want to harm him, even though he's dead. That's good. We'll just keep working, keep looking at your mind. Don't, feel it, hear it. Of course, it must be very hurtful to hear that. I agree with you.
Well, and I've gotten good learning out of it. And I was just, I'm trying to prepare myself so that I can see it when it's happening instead of 3 days later after.
That's advanced, darling. Now that, honey, that's what we have to do, Christopher. But we can't really do that until we've got some single point of concentration with incredible years of practice under our belt. We've got to do our best, you know. But at least from the learning, because this came from left field, and you see the hurt that arises, so you learn to prepare your mind by working every day. Like I was saying to Susie, do a bit of practice every morning, do a bit of study, do a bit of thinking about it, do a practice at the end of the day. That's the preparation. And slowly, slowly, you start to deal with things better, you know, like including with your own children or whatever.
Yes,
slowly,
ma'am.
slowly, Christopher. You sound like you're on the right track.
It feels like the
Okay.
right track.
It is. Keep moving, baby. You're doing great.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good, darling. What else, people? Nothing? I could go blah, blah. as well, but-
Ada sent me a message. She says her microphone's not working.
Who? Aida.
Ida.
So what did
and
she say?
Following up to her question about
Animals, yeah.
animals, she
Yeah.
says, for example, Ganipati, Hayagriva,
Oh, all
Garuda.
that, yes, of course, because they're all used as symbolic. They're all just symbolic of things. Every creature that exists, especially in Tantra, the more sophisticated practice of in the explanations and philosophy in teaching, everything is utilized. Everything can be symbolic. So, you know, for example, one deity, Yamataki's got big horns. It scared the life out of you, met him. So it's all symbolic. It's got meaning. Meaning is given to everything, even the shitty stuff, even the negative stuff. Everything is given meaning. So animals can all mean something there. Yes, absolutely. So it doesn't mean as an animal you can get enlightened, but they have symbolic meaning. Tantra is sophisticated, very sophisticated psychology, you know. That's the best I can say, Aida. Hope that helps, darling. And the reason animals can't get, so animals can't get enlightened because their minds are very limited. Buddha actually refers to all living beings. It's not just humans, it's the entire universe, Buddha's view. And so animals are predominant of a lot. We've all got ego grasping, which is the root delusion, which also gives rise to attachment, which gives rise to aversion, and all the 83,997 that Buddha talks about. Everybody's got these. But the thing with humans, if we're fortunate, we can access our virtues, access our wisdom, access our intelligence. And darling, animals, you know, as we know, we say leopards can't change their spots, you know, they've got some qualities, but they can't access much of their intelligence and their ability to work things through. That's the tragedy of an animal birth, you know. So as animals, you can't get enlightened, but they can have meaning. We can use these as symbolic meaning. We understand this. That's a good point, Aida. Thank you. What else? Now it is switching. Oh. Okay, I've got 20 minutes. It'll allow. My battery's running out. Go on, talk to me, people. I'm sorry, I'm not raving on today. I'm asking you to tell me questions. I'm full of cake and cream and ice cream. I'm a bit dull.
But Robina, a follow-up. This is just from me now. Just curious.
Good. Thanks for your message, Owen. Yeah. Go.
If you do get reborn, whether as an animal or in the hell realms, how does one kind of break that cycle and
You don't, baby. You just got to. You don't, honey. You've lost the plot. You've fallen down. It takes a long while to burn it all up. I'm not going to be depressed. So you can't do much then. You just got to live out the karma. That's why if we've got animals around us, we can do lots to help animals, you know. You can say mantras in their ears. You can give them blessings. Then you can help them help by saying a mantra in the ear of an animal, connecting with the Buddhas. It can activate the virtuous karma, which is marvelous. So that's why don't let any ant or deer or dog or creature go by. You know, before you kill the cockroach, at least you mantra in its poor little ear. Don't kill it as well, though. But you can't, I mean, this is a tragedy. Once you've lost, you know, the karma's ripened, it's got certain kind of petrol, it's certain like a petrol in the tank, it's got to run out. Because you can do zero then from your own side to get yourself out of it. So you got to live it through, let the petrol tank run out, you know, which is the tragedy. And then when you're in the lower realms, you keep creating more negative karma. So it's kind of quite intense, you know. Is that Georgie or is that Jack? Who's that, Georgie or Jack?
This is George.
Hello, George. I'm buying you a special little coloured mala. Did your daddy tell you that?
Not yet.
Do your daddy know who's buying your coloured mala? Me. Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
Robina's getting your mala.
Yes.
What do you
You're in the
think?
mail soon.
Thank
A bit
you.
late for Christmas. It's all right. It'll be a bit late for Christmas, but it'll come soon, okay? Thank you, Jamie. Good, darlings. But what else? What was I saying? To whom? I forgot I was talking to. I got distracted by George.
Robina, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, come on, I'm listening.
Because you've been
Well, that was
talking about.
correct. Now I'm seeing, sorry, I'm sorry. Go on, Joanne. I'm so distracted. Go,
Oh,
Joanne. I'm
okay.
listening, darling.
Okay, so you've been talking about children
Yes.
a lot, and I have not raised children myself,
Right.
but I have to say that when I was very young, I had a daughter, and at that time when you weren't married, you couldn't, you know, there weren't a lot of options, so she
That's
was
right.
adopted.
Yes,
And
darling.
so I wonder if that's something that I should be regretting when I do a purification, you know, the 4 R's when I
I
do the.
understand, darling. No, no, not at all, Joanne. Come on. What was your motivation? What were you thinking at the time? What was your heart feeling?
I didn't have any other options,
What was your
basically.
heart feeling? What did you want? Were you feeling sad because of it? You didn't want to give this beloved baby away?
Yeah, that probably is true. I think that most of the emotion was shame.
Oh, there you go, darling. I understand that. So, Joanne, I can't imagine there's much that you did wrong. There's nothing that you did wrong. It was circumstances. And you've got to see, this is the point, sweetheart. When you talk about the karmic relationship, when I talk about when I had an abortion, for example, there's a karmic relationship between me and that fetus. That human being had died a few weeks before. And then when they died, the karma ripened to come to my womb person with a strong history together. It's exactly the same with you, Joanne. But the marvelous thing about you is you didn't have an abortion. I mean, I'm not criticizing anybody. I decided I'm going to get rid of this baby. I didn't want a baby, you know, so that was the karma. But what I realized is when we realized this, Joanne, you and that baby were in it together. Me and my fetus were in it together. But we, of course, don't think we are like that. We think you're a bad person. I'm so shameful. I'm wrong. I did the wrong thing. So wrong, Joanne. There's a karmic connection between you people. And that person, that child, created the cause themselves to be given away. Due to their own during their own past karma, they created the cause to not be with the mother who gave birth and to be given to somebody else. Now, they might have a lovely family and they might be happy, but some people feel a great sense of loss. They're mad at their mothers for giving them away. Maybe that person feels that way. But darling, the point for you is the karma of loss. You must have somehow had the karma in the past, created the cause to lose your baby and then to have all this shame or whatever. So I can't think there's much to regret. I mean, not really. I don't think you did anything negative. It was just circumstances and time. And this person who came to your womb, that got their history, they got their own actions, and they created the cause to be given away. So it's not all your actions. It's like you're in a tennis match. It's not all you. It's both of you together. The same even with me and the fetus. We had this history together. They created the cause to come to my womb. But in my case, they also created the cause to be killed by me. I'm putting it bluntly, but that's how it is, you know. So then you own your part of it. And if there's anything you feel that you've done, you regret it, you have compassion for that person, and you vow to continue to practice virtue and morality and not harm sentient beings. That's all, darling. Does that make sense, Joanne?
In a karmic sense, why would someone choose to not just go ahead and be born to the mother that raises them?
It's not a question of choosing it. Karma's not as simple as that. It's more due to some complicated, I mean, we've got millions of karmic seeds, Joanne. We've got millions of actions. So clearly some karma they created of maybe being harmful to you, or rejecting other people. Maybe they rejected somebody in the past. So they created the cause to be rejected, to be given away. Because everything we experience is from, if you look at the action, and the action we must have done is similar to that. So they didn't create the cause to be killed by you, portion. No, they created the cause to be alive. And maybe they created the cause to go to your womb. Now maybe they have a really good relationship with their adopted mother. I mean, it's so complex. There's so many things involved. But when relationships split up, sometimes that's due to some negative karma when you and your baby lost each other, you know, and it can be very brokenhearted for some people. So there's always, if you look at the action itself, that can sort of tell you what the past action must have been, each of you in your own. I don't know. Does that make sense, darling?
Yeah, and I have to say that to let you know that we have been reunited as adults, and
How is it? Good or not good?
wonderful parents. They did everything I hoped for her. She had a good life and a good family and good education. So I feel
loves you. She's happy to meet you.
Yes, we have a really nice relationship.
Well, that's amazing. See, that's the thing. So obviously you created some cause. It has to be, in a sense, it has to be negative karma, because if it was this feeling of loss and sadness, that's due to some karma. Don't be bad. We've all got negative, we've all got positive karma, darling. So then obviously you've got the karma also to now meet and to be harmonious and to love each other. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you, Joanne. But don't think of, I don't think you did anything wrong. It's just some karma from 47 lives. So it's okay, you know. That's wonderful.
Thank
I'm
you.
very happy for you.
Thank you for
Good,
talking
Diane.
about that. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
that.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. So we've got 10 minutes for our little Sunday. And then how many days have I got on the next one? February.
Yes, I think so.
I'm gone for a month. Well, I haven't really. I'm just gone somewhere else. So we've got 10 more minutes. Come on, you people. Anybody else want to say something?
I have a
Who's
question.
there with Christopher? Who's there with Dawn and Christopher? Hang on, Marka. Who's that with Dawn and Christopher?
Hi,
Who are you?
I'm Oz. I'm Don's son.
What's your name, sweetheart?
Haws.
Spell it.
Hawes.
I'm happy to meet you, honey child. Are you doing well?
Yes, I am. Are you?
I'm very well, darling. I'm in Crestone, 4 hours north of you. I'm coming back tomorrow to Santa
Awesome.
Fe. We'll meet one day, okay?
Yes. And I
Maybe
wanted
I'll,
to say
maybe I'll come to your maybe I'll come to your mother's tattoo shop.
yes.
Okay, I will. I won't get a tattoo though.
I really want you to see
Charmaine said she'll get a tattoo.
of Robina, of your name.
Oh, I don't think so. I might get one on my big toe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I've never thought of having tattoos. Anyway.
I wanted to say thank you for the candy that you got me.
Oh, you enjoyed it?
It's very good, yes.
I'm very happy, darling.
He's
Good on you.
rationing it out to us.
Oh, he did well done, Dawes. Congratulations. Good, honey. This is good. All right. Thank you, Dawes. I'll see you soon. What else, people? Who else is there? Now 5 minutes left.
I have a question.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Marka. I forgot about you. Now I remember you. Go on, talk to me.
So on the Christmas theme, and as far as Buddhist vows about stealing and not lying and this kind of thing, do you want to say a few words about the whole Santa Claus lie for the children?
Oh, darling, I don't think it's a lie. I just think it's like, I don't know. Do you think it's really a lie? I mean, do you think it's a lie? Or do you think it's just sort of, there are lots of things we talk about.
I think that overall it's the message for the children, don't trust adults.
Oh, really? Marka, that's an interesting view. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, I know when I was a kid and we all wanted, maybe George and Jack might be disappointed by this. Maybe you should turn the sounds off. But, I mean, darling, listen, I know when we were all so excited about Father Christmas coming. We call Father Christmas in Australia. And we were so excited. And then we just suddenly discovered that we weren't upset at all. We were really excited. We found out the secret and we pretended that he was still existing because they thought we had believed it. So it depends on the child. I think it's okay to have fantasy. There's nothing wrong. And if you become deluded and you're really kind of ridiculous about it, but I think it was I don't know. And the tooth fairy, I love the tooth fairy. I don't know. I'm not sure, Mother. Why, were you devastated when your mummy told you there was no Father Christmas?
it was almost like it was just another hypocrisy and another lie that the Christian
Is that how you
faith
felt?
trying to tell me.
Is that how you felt about it?
Yeah.
That's interesting. What other lies do you think that adults told you that has devastated you?
Oh, I can't think of them offhand, but just in, like.
Interesting point. I'll think about it. I mean, if it's been devastating for you, I'm sure some people could be disappointed. I agree with you. That's an interesting point. I don't know. I haven't got much to say besides that. I'm not sure, Mark. I'll think about it.
Okay, I'll think about it too.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Who
Okay.
else, people? Thank you, darling. What else, people? Nothing else. That's it. There's Mary Ellen. There's Anil. Eric. Hello, Eric. I'm happy to see your name there, darling. What else, people? And Victor and Linda and Jackie and Chuck and Alexis and Ming. Well, I don't know what else to say. That's enough. Maybe. Yes, Mary Jo, talk to me. Sweetheart, unmute. Unmute, baby.
You mentioned a while back about patience being somehow connected with, I thought it was anger or ego or something. I didn't quite catch that.
As one old great scholar, Yogi, back in the 11th century said, the best patience is humility. But I think he also could have said the best humility is patience. So meaning the flip side of those two is arrogance and anger. So anger, and we look at, it's very interesting, you analyze using the Buddhist, model of the mind. When you're angry, I know anger very well, I'm intimate with it. When I'm angry, there's this incredible feeling of being superior. Who do you think you are? How dare you do that to me? It's very linked to pride. And if I'm very arrogant, I'm feeling, it's very linked to anger. I can see it in my mind. So it's very interesting. It's very similar. But I thought it was very profound. The best patience is humility. Very interesting way of putting it, isn't it? What do you think, Mary Jo? Can you hear it?
I'll have to think a minute about it.
What do you think? I think put it another way. Go on, talk to me. Say something. Go on.
Yeah, I will have to kind of sit with that a while to see what I think about it. But
good point. Let me flip them over. Let's flip them over, Mary Jo. Because as you know, in psychology, there's a very clear distinction between the neurotic, fear-based, unhappy states and the positive, virtuous, useful states of mind. It's quite unique to the Buddhist analysis of the mind. So we look at the flip side. I said before, the flip side, as I was saying to Catherine, is actually low self-esteem. Now, we are really familiar with that. We really think we're nobody and nothing. But I think analyze it carefully. You see, all the delusions for the Buddha, they all exaggerate something. So anger exaggerates the badness of something. Attachment exaggerates the deliciousness of something. Pride exaggerates qualities, but low self-esteem exaggerates our bad qualities. And I think we flip between those two. And if I look at low self-esteem, I'm feeling I'm worthless. Then if I'm careful and I observe how I'm feeling about the world, I'm going to see that people who are better than me, I'm almost like resentful. How dare they be better than me? It's almost like we think I should be that. That's why we get hurt by other people who are better than us. We feel like it's a personal insult. So that's really the flip side of it. Low self-esteem is another way of putting pride, but pride over-exaggerates your good qualities, and low self-esteem is sort of shrunken. Pride is kind of all puffed up, and low self-esteem is shrunken. And they're both deluded, Mary Jo. They're both extreme. They're both not accurate. You get my point? So what's interesting, if we look at the difference between humility, if we look at now between the humility and let's say humility and low self-esteem, we often confuse them. But a person who's got humility is actually a person who's very in themselves. We think it's self-esteem, but humility is a positive quality. You're delighted in who you are, you're content with yourself. And if you've got humility, you can delight in someone else's qualities. You won't be offended by it. So humility, I think, and self-confidence come together. Pride and low self-esteem come together. We confuse those. So self-confidence is a crucial quality, but we think if you've got to be humble, you've got to be all small. This is not true. That's why the Dalai Lama is an amazing example. He's so charismatic, he's so powerful, but there's no question he's humble, but he's got real self-confidence. And that's what we must get. We misunderstand the bullshit. We think we've got to give up attachment, give up anger, give up give up pride. We think we become nothing, It's a big mistake. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mary Jo?
Yes, I do.
Good, thank you.
Yes,
okay,
thank you.
Darling people. And our hour has gone like a dream. If even there's been one thought that's been useful, then practice it, okay? Even 1% of what you heard. This is the main thing. And never give up, you people. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Jack and George, you better go to sleep. And you so had Mummy and Daddy better go to bed, okay?
I think they heard you speak. Venerable.
Oh my God, I was
come down and
shouting.
see you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Happy
Now I've met you.
birthday.
Oh, thank you, darling. I'm very happy. Thank you so much. And there's Jack. Happy to see you, Jack. Happy to see you, Jack. Good. Bye, darling. So I'm going to sing a prayer now. Jangchub sem chogrin poche makie panam ke gyochig ke panyampa mepayang gongne gongdu pelbasho. Goodbye. Thank you, darling. See you in a month. From this show anyway, on this radio length, wavelength, I'll see you in a month. Bye, darlings.
Thank you, Bill.